This is Robert Gardner, host of Fantasy Wizards. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Annie Scogan, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Head Over Heels Pageant Talk here on Public House Media. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come out and check my show, Head Over Heels Pageant Talk, where we talk about all things involved with the Miss America organization and both myself and my other co-host, Jordan Butler's experiences within it. A new show comes out bi-monthly, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so that you never miss an episode of Head Over Heels Pageant Talk. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Today's verse of the day comes from Proverbs 18:13. To answer before listening, that is folly and shame. Good morning and welcome to the Verse of the Day podcast. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn, here on Public House Media. Thanks for spending some of your day here on Verse of the Day. The way it works around here is we take one Bible verse every single day and we look at it not only from a biblical lens, but also from a relatable modern day perspective as well too. Everybody looks at a Bible verse differently, everybody relates to it differently, and that's what we try to do, and I try to provide real world examples for you as well too, to hopefully make the Bible come alive to you a little bit more this morning as well too. I want to read that verse for you one more time this morning. Proverbs 18:13. To answer before listening, that is folly and shame. So what does that mean? Well, it's very straightforward. Be quick to listen and slow to speak. There's a reason, folks, that we have two ears and one mouth. That's not an accident by God's design of us as human beings. We need to spend more time listening to others as opposed to trying to be the one that is heard. I know that for our male listeners out there, you have probably heard this more than once. But a lot of times, especially when you're dating someone or you are married, it's especially true when you're married. I've learned this in my marriage. Oftentimes, guys, women don't want you to fix their problems. They want you to listen. They want to be heard. They want to feel like they have a voice and that somebody that they love and care about deeply is taking time out of their day to listen to them, to be a sounding board to them. It can be so helpful just to have someone to listen to what you have to say, even if you don't want their advice. Don't get me wrong, it is important to be able to lend someone's advice if they have questions, if they have a need, and you feel that you can provide that for them. Absolutely. But do it when it's necessary. Don't go off the deep end trying to fix everything. How often do we as guys, I'm guilty of this, especially in my friend groups as well too. Someone will say, oh man, my boss has really just been on me recently. And I'll say, well, hey, maybe you should, talk to your boss. As soon as we jump in, we haven't even heard the full story. If our friend had completed that sentence, he may have said something like, man, my boss has really been on me recently. I know his dad just died and it's been hard on him, but I wish he would ease up a little bit. Maybe he's taking out some of his stress on me, and, I'll likely, just relax for a little while. We as friends are immediately jumping to the conclusion that this person's boss, this friend's boss, is the most negative Nancy in the whole world, and here we are trying to tell them how to go tell their boss off. If we had listened to the entire context, well, then all of a sudden things change. If I would have sat and listened the entire time and heard all of a sudden that my friend's boss's dad had just died, that's a different conversation. That's different advice. You're then saying, hey, maybe you should go and talk to your boss and ask him how he's doing. Maybe you and your wife, if your friend has a wife, can bring him a meal. Just a gesture to show that you care. Losing a parent is never easy. I thankfully haven't lost either of my parents yet, but I know many people that have. That's just one example, as you get what I'm saying. You need to be quick to listen, friends. you're not going to solve all the problems at one time. You're not going to be able to start your day, take a list of all your friends and family's problems and say, perfect, bang, 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 bang. Who is that relative? Who is that friend? And you can think about this. You've got that person in your head probably already. Who's that relative? Who's that friend that anytime you talk to them, you do more of the listening than you do talking? Because that person either A, has a lot to say, B, likes to hear themselves talk, or C, just in general, is the more vocal of the two in the conversation. It's okay. I like to pride myself on being a good listener. Do I like to talk? Absolutely. That's why I'm, doing so many different things that I do in broadcasting in the world. But when we take time to listen, friends, you can solve so many problems. You can be a comfort to so many people. I urge you today, as I read this verse one more time, to be quick to listen and slow to speak. Proverbs 18:13. To answer before listening, that is folly and shame. 2 ears, 1 mouth. How can we use our ears to not only listen to our friends, but more importantly, listen for the Word of God and how we can be used to help Him and others each and every day. You've been listening to the Verse of the Day podcast hosted by Baxter Colburn on Public House Media. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Verse of the Day. It comes out 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The podcast can be found by subscribing on Google Play Podcasts and wherever good podcasts are found. More information about Verse of the Day podcast can be found by going to thephmedia.com.